Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Amber Rain Davis from NotableInk.com. Today I'm participating in the Altenew Educator Certification Blog Hop, and I'm featuring 2 cards in this video. I also have 2 cards in a separate video as well. Today's blog hop is all about some of our favorites. So I'm using some of my favorite stamp sets, the Beveled Flower Gardenia, the Beautiful Heart stamp set, as well as some favorite stencils that were recently released. I'm going to go ahead and start with a circle die cut of navy blue metallic cardstock. As always, all the links to products used today will be listed below, so be sure to check those out. And I'm using some old navy embossing paste here, and we're going to do a tone-on-tone embossing paste. So the color is tone-on-tone, and then also both the embossing paste and the cardstock are metallic. So it adds some subtle shine to the project without being overwhelming and too glittery, which I think is really nice. So I'm just working at getting that nice and smooth. I haven't really used embossing paste too much. In fact, I think this is one of the first projects that I did with embossing paste, and I am glad that I used the metallic cardstock. I think that that works particularly well with embossing paste because it has somewhat of a coated surface. So you can see I just pulled up that stencil there, and I'm going to go ahead and use my tweezers. I used some temporary adhesive on the back of the circle so that it wouldn't shift. And then I'm just using my fingers to get off the excess embossing paste on the edges there. I'm going to go ahead and make both of the embossed circles so that there's time for those to dry while I'm working on the rest of the card. And this is Aquamarine embossing paste from Nuvo. Again, it'll be down below. So I'm just trying out different tools here to see which one I like best. And with this particular stencil there, that area in the middle, that little flower or starburst, however you want to describe that in the middle, there's actually a piece that can go in there if you don't want that area embossed. I went ahead and used paste on the center area for both of these. Make sure to wash your stencils and your tools right away before that embossing paste dries. It's going to be much easier now than later. And again, I'm just getting the excess off the edges. So I'm using the Beveled Flower Gardenia stamp set here, and I've used Dusk for the outline, Lagoon for the first layer, and Dusk for the third layer. And I went ahead and used Dusk for the leaves, and I think I used Mountain Mist for one of the detail layers on the leaves. So I'm using the same color palette that I used for the other 2 cards that were in this 4-card set, just to keep things cohesive. I went ahead and die cut the same size circle out of an A2 size panel piece of cardstock, and I dry embossed that with a stencil. I'll have the stencil listed below. And then I did the same. I used that template. I think that's the Starburst stencil that I'm using there from Altenew. And I went ahead and did, I cut a piece of sticky back fun foam to a little bit smaller than A2 and used that same die to cut out a circle so that I could pop up the panel without it being kind of ridgy. I find that the foam tape, I end up getting ridges where the gaps are between the foam tape. So I find that the sticky back foam just works best for me. I feel like I get a cleaner look and a nicer finished product. So I'm just adding a little bit of Tombow glue to the back there. That's the Tombow Mono adhesive. And I'm just drying it a little bit because I wanted it to be slightly repositionable while I was working on getting it put down just right. So I went ahead and popped up the flower on with dimensional adhesive only on the part that overlays the embossed piece. The other areas, the leaves and the back end of the flower, are adhered directly to the embossed panel. And that finishes that card. So I'm going to go ahead and start the next card, and we're using Beautiful Heart for this one. So I wanted, again, to keep with the same color scheme. I used dusk for the outline, and I used second generation dusk for this stamping of the outline, and I wasn't sure what colors I wanted to use, so I used a second generation of the Midnight Violet ink pad as well. And then for the third layer, I'll go back to the full strength dusk again. That way I have two options and I can decide which color combination I think looks best. I'm going to pair this one with the navy embossing paste. When you emboss your card panels, when you dry emboss your card panels, you have to play around with your embossing pads and your plate to see what the correct sandwich is for you, which is why I didn't add that in here, because it's going to be different for everybody. So for this card, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment before I dry emboss the panel. So this A2 size piece of cardstock is going to be behind my embossed piece. So here you can see I'm just taping on my stencil. I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine, and you can see that the sentiment is also embossed, which adds a really, I think that's a cool effect there. So I'm just using a die cut piece that's smaller than my circle to pop up my panel. I'm going to pop up the embossed panel. I'm also going to pop up the flower and the leaves. So the flower and the leaves that overhang the navy blue panel are going to have twice the amount of dimensional adhesive as what's sitting on the embossed panel, the blue panel, if that makes sense, because that blue embossed panel is already higher. So you need to double stack your dimensional adhesive on the other parts. So once we get that placed down, the card is finished. So these cards came together fairly quickly, with the exception of just letting the embossing paste dry. You've got a nice metallic finish with that. I struggled with whether or not to add any additional embellishments. I kind of threw some sequins on there and didn't really love it, so I left them unembellished, but I think the texture of the paper and the embossing paste adds just enough to where it's okay that there's no further embellishment. So I hope that you enjoyed these cards today, and we'll give these techniques a try. I am going to link the video to the other two cards down below. Be sure to check out my blog, because there is a giveaway. There's also, Altenew is giving away a $30 gift card for the blog hop, and I'll be giving away $15 sponsored by Altenew on my blog as well. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a fantastic day.